the need to support the country more. You can see the Council conclusions we adopted that indicate our willingness to increase and deepen our cooperation with the country. We then hosted the new Foreign Minister of Moldova for a conversation with him on the new orientation, the new priorities of the government, the implementation of our association agreement, and I know Commissioner Hahn already made an important announcement on the microfinancial assistance that we are restoring. We then had a point on the Central African Republic. Also there, I was a few days ago. I proposed the ministers to increase the cooperation with the country at a critical moment for the implementation of the peace agreement. So we'll come back with concrete proposals, especially on our work with our mission there, that is training the militaries, and also with the possibility of developing a police component for that. Finally, last but not least, we had another discussion on the external aspects of migration. Here, I've seen a positive convergence of member states on the need to tackle the issue more effectively. And we have had, in particular, a discussion on how to improve a few points of our common action that is already in place. First of all, the need to finance more our trust fund. We have something like 209 projects already in place. Sorry, for a total of 4 billion euros with countries of origin and transit. This has allowed us to decrease the number of irregular arrivals, but also to save many lives, both in the desert and at sea. These funds are now about to end, so I have asked the member states to be consistent and pledge new resources so that we can continue our programs or start new programs in the countries of origin and transit. Otherwise, we risk having to stop cooperation with countries of origin and transit, and that would be definitely a step backwards. That would have negative consequences on our cooperation with countries of origin and transit, and I hope they will be consistent on that. We also discussed the need to increase and accelerate resettlement of persons that are in need of international protection, being them in Libya or being them in Niger or elsewhere. And we also discussed the need to ask or to expect from our colleagues, the interior ministers that are meeting in Helsinki in a few days for their informal meeting, to advance on agreements on disembarkation so that this issue can be tackled on a regular basis. This is not the competence of foreign ministers, but there was a strong wish from the foreign ministers to see advancements on this. Obviously, Obviously, that would be also something that would allow us to move forward possibly on the return of naval assets of Sofia at sea. That would be important not only for managing migration, but also for implementing the arms embargo that is very much needed off the coast of Libya now. I think I will stop here and leave space to your questions.
Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself and the media you're working for before you ask your question, and I'll start with Nureddin.
Nordin Fridi from the Arabic News Channel. Madam Mogherini, can I ask you a clarification of you spoke about the legitimate trade? Do you mean that at some level the NSTEX instrument will cover the oil trade? And another clarification on NSTEX, you refer to the third countries. Do you mean that today there is a political decision that you open that NSTEX will be open to third countries?
INSTEX has always been conceived to be open to third countries. We've always, member states that have set it up with our support have always indicated that first we start having the first transactions being processed among the member states, well, coming from the member states, and then it can be open for third countries. So definitely this is not a decision that needed to be taken. It has always been intended to be open to third countries, so definitely yes, it is open to third countries. And we are already seeing interest of some of them to participate in that. The issue of whether INSTEX will deal with oil or not is a discussion that is ongoing among the shareholders. But I can tell you that for the time being, we have as member states that are either already shareholders or interested in becoming so, and they have expressed clearly their intention to do so. We have around 10 member states, and some others are considering actively doing that. And we have the first transactions that are being processed currently. Obviously, it takes time because Instex, as a mechanism, has to be very careful about due diligence, but the first transactions are being processed currently.
Lawrence.
Thanks. Lawrence Norman, Wall Street Journal. Hi, Rep. Two questions on Iran, surprisingly.
I would have expected the Central African Republic.
How about Libya? What would it take for the EU or the E3 to trigger the dispute resolution mechanism? It seems pretty clear that there is no rush to do so, and it may not happen for a while, but what would it take if it doesn't take two violations of the nuclear deal? And second question, last week the E3 and the EU called for an urgent meeting of the Joint Commission. We still don't know when it's going to be, so maybe you can enlighten us.
There might be an upcoming meeting of the Joint Commission, still to be defined when and at what level. We are coordinating this, obviously, not only with the E3, but also with the other two members of the Joint Commission. When it comes to the dispute resolution mechanism, Article 36 of the agreement, it is the mechanism that is foreseen by the agreement, in case of significant non-compliance. For the time being, none of the parties to the agreement has signalled their intention to invoke this article, which means that none of them is for the moment, for the time being, with the current data we have had, in particular from the IAEA, that the non-compliance is considered to be a significant non-compliance. We have also noticed that all the steps that have been taken by Iran that we regret and that we invite Iran to withdraw and go back to full compliance. I want to be clear on that. We want to see Iran going back to full compliance as it has been in these years. But we note that technically all the steps that have been taken and that we regret have been taken are reversible. So we hope and we invite Iran to reverse these steps and go back to full compliance with the agreement. Let me add that I have seen in my conversations with many interlocutors these days, including from the region, that everybody, including those that were more critical about the agreement, are today urging Iran to respect the deal, even those that were criticizing the deal as not being effective. The reality is that the deal has avoided that Iran developed a nuclear weapon, so it has been effective, and I think that today everybody recognizes that there is no alternative today to that deal, and so it is extremely important to keep it in place at full. I can also say that a full implementation of the agreement, to which we are definitely committed as Europeans, and I would say as an international community at large, is also key in keeping the situation as calm as possible in the region and avoiding escalation in a critical region for our security.